Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
पैकिंग अच्छा होता है, दवाई लिखने वाले को भी कुछ मिलता रहता है। आप जानते होंगे डॉक्टरों की कॉन्फ्रेंस कभी सिंगापुर होती है, कभी दुबई होती है? वहाँ कोई बीमार है इसलिए नहीं जाते। फार्मास्यूटिकल कंपनियों के लिए जरूरी है, करते हैं। जो दवाई 100 रुपये में मिलती थी वो आज जेनरिक मेडिकल स्टोर में 15 रुपये में मिलती है।
A blistering attack from the Prime Minister on doctors. The charge is serious, one of a nexus between doctors and big pharma companies. The key question is, are consumers being overcharged for medicines? Now, in a bid to provide cheaper drugs, the UPA government had launched a scheme called the Aushadhi in 2008. Under the Modi government, this scheme has been rechristened the Pradhan Mantri Aushadhi Yojana and has seen rapid growth. So let's take a look at the numbers. From 2008 to 2014, about 100 drugs were sold under the scheme at subsidized rates. But in the last 3 years, 632 medications and 132 consumables are supposed to be sold as part of the Aushadhi scheme at Aushadhi stores. The stores have seen a turnover that has gone from 3 crore rupees in 2008, but last financial year, the turnover has grown multifold to about 74 crore rupees. Along with this rapid growth has come a slew of quality issues. In 2017, 11 drugs were recalled over quality issues, and in the first 4 months of this year, another 11 drugs have been recalled, with 5 recalls taking place in just 1 month. So why are drugs being recalled? What is the real Aushadhi story? And what needs to be done to ensure that this program is actually effective on the ground, that the intent and the purpose is actually served? Archana Shukla is standing by with more details. Archana, what is the reason for the sudden rise in drug recalls that we're seeing for the drugs that are part of the Aushadhi program?
Well, Shireen, there are many reasons. Drug regulators in several states found some medicines to be defective, contaminated, presence of foreign objects and misbranded, among other reasons for this recall. After this, the Bureau of Pharma PSUs, which is the authority implementing the Aushadhi scheme, recalled the drugs. What's also worth pointing out that the BPPI, the implementing agency itself, is facing a serious manpower issue. In fact, the position of the head of the BPPI has been vacant for some time now, and 3 CEOs have resigned in just the last 3 years, the last one being Biplab Chatterjee, who resigned just a month ago. Apart from this, the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers has also launched a probe into a slew of allegations of the workings of this scheme. According to a report by the website The Print, these include financial misappropriation and excess spending, among other reasons for this sort of an inquiry. Here is another interesting piece of information from a parliamentary panel report which was released in March this year. In the last financial year, the Department of Pharma was given 74 crore rupees for the Aushadhi scheme, but only 47 crore rupees was utilized, and the remaining 36% of the funds were not put to use. For this financial year, the Pharma Department sought 120 crore rupees, but the Finance Ministry, given the underutilization in last year, granted just 84 crore rupees. So it's a mixed bag of multiple issues that are, somewhere hitting the kind of performance that this Aushadhi program can do. The parliamentary panel also specifically spoke about procurement as well as the supply chain, which also needs to be strengthened for the Aushadhi to actually benefit more people.
Archana, thanks very much. We're going to pick up on all of those issues. But first, let's go across to S. Ishvara Reddy, the Drug Controller General of India. Mr. Reddy, appreciate you joining us. I know you have limited time, sir. So let me first ask you about whether you are, as the regulator, looking at the quality issues that have cropped up when it comes to the Aushadhi program. We were just taking our viewers through reports that are coming in on the recalls that we've witnessed over the last 4 months and in 2017. How serious is the quality issue, and what are you doing about it?
Yeah, thank you. I think, as you know, the main objective of this Aushadhi is to make the drugs are available, accessible, and affordable to all the needy patients. And the government will have stringent regulations under the Drugs and Cosmetic Act to monitor the quality of the medicines we have a well-defined standard, that is good manufacturing standard. The product has to comply before it is marketed in India. We don't have any differences between the generic or branded regulations for regulating the quality of the product. Regulations are remain same. So, and also we have a standards prescribed under the Indian Pharmacopoeia where the product has to be complied with these standards before it is released by the manufacturer into the market. And as you know, recently we conducted the...
But how stringently are you monitoring compliance, Mr. Reddy? That's the question. And also what we are picking up from people that we're speaking with is that there is a single-minded focus on pricing and not enough attention and emphasis on quality. So if you can give us examples, for instance, of how many audits you conduct, how many surprise audits you conduct to ensure that quality remains as per the requirement.
So we have taken various measures to ensure the quality of the product and also to ensure the quality of the drugs that are moving in the Indian market. The Government of India, before year, we have conducted National Drug Survey, under which 47,000 samples have been drawn from the different parts of India, and out of which only 3% of the products are found to be not of standard quality. And also to monitor the quality of the products, our drug inspectors across India from both the state and the central government, they will inspect the manufacturing premises. They will also draw the samples for the compliance to our rules and regulations. As you know, also measures to ensure quality by incorporating some rules like it is mandatory now to conduct a BA/BE study where the clinical equality between the innovator and the has to be proven by the manufacturer. Recently, we also issued declarations with respect to mandatory for the conduct of the stability studies, which also ensure the quality of the product. And as you also know, recently government, we also made a mandatory for the pharmacovigilance program, under which if any serious adverse events are observed by any chain, they have to report to our pharmacovigilance monitoring center at Resigned to ensure the quality of the product.
How many complaints has the vigilance center got so far, Mr. Reddy?
So we are receiving almost 70,000 SAEs have been reported in the year 2017.
70,000?
Yeah, because in India we have 1.2 billion population. Very less compared to any other country, the number of SAEs will be reported. So,
can you just explain that to us again? What is the 70,000 number exactly?
Yeah, I think I'm in a so they're asking me to switch off my mobile. Okay. I think
Okay, you're on a flight.
Yeah, I'm in a flight, they're asking me to switch
Very
off my
quickly, if you
mobile.
can just explain to us the 70,000 number.
Yeah, 70,000 for the 1 year. These are reported by various hospitals and medical centers across India. And these are there will be a mechanism for the casualty assessment. An expert team, they will analyze the serious adverse event, and wherever it is required, the actions like suspension of their provisions of marketing authorization, or otherwise we also make some necessary corrections in the package insert. If any special warning need to be written on the label, so we give directions to the manufacturers and direction to the manufacturer to comply with that norms about directions.
All right, sir, I will let you go. Appreciate you joining us. That's the Drug Controller General of India, S. Ishvara Reddy there, saying that about 70,000 adverse events have been reported in the year 2017, also saying that they are trying to ensure that compliance requirements are being adhered with. But joining us now is Bijon Mishra, someone who knows what is happening on the ground. He is part of actually running a Jan Aushadhi store himself and is an activist also. Mr. Mishra, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Let me ask you, sir, what is the experience on the ground? The government has big aspirations to take the Jan Aushadhi scheme forward. We saw what the Prime Minister had to say about the Doctor-Pharma Nexus in London, which has got doctors here up in arms. But that is a different story altogether. I don't want to focus on the Doctor-Pharma Nexus. There have been several complaints that have come to light with the execution of the Jan Aushadhi scheme, whether it's at the distribution end, the awareness end, accessibility, supply chain issues. Can you explain to us what is the situation on the ground? What is working? What is not?
Shireen, I must tell you that the Prime Minister is serious to make sure accessibility of affordable medicines increases in our country and patients are able to access medicines which are affordable, and that's how the whole Jan Aushadhi scheme got launched by the government of India.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the designing of the scheme, I find that there are a number of faults in it even now, which is not getting rectified.
Okay.
For example, the patients want to know, the medical practitioners want to know that is Jan Aushadhi having the quality which is prescribed as per the India Pharmacopoeia.
Okay.
Is the good manufacturing practices being adopted by the manufacturers who are being sourced in terms of procurement of medicines which are being wrapped in the packaging of Jan Aushadhi?
Okay.
So there is a lot of question mark raised in terms of quality.
So, Mr. Mishra,
and
one
that
second.
is why
1 second. I want to
see
interrupt you, sir.
Medical practitioners.
I just want to interrupt you because you're saying that quality is a serious issue. Now, how serious a problem is that? Because if I take a look at reports, the data suggests that in 2017, there was a total of 11 recalls. 11 recalls have been made in the first 4 months of 2018, with 6 recalls between January to March. 5 recalls made in the past 20 days of April due to quality lapses. How severe is the quality issue, Mr. Mishra?
You see, recall is always being seen as a good mechanism to gain consumer confidence. So recall is a good system which should come into place, but frequent recalls raise issues in terms of the credibility of the product. And that is why, the medical practitioners, they themselves are not promoting Jan Aushadhi. And when I ask them why you are not promoting Jan Aushadhi when it is so affordable, they are saying who is going to take the guarantee in terms of the outcome out of the medicine? Because we are not sure whether the quality is being adhered to, which is being prescribed as per the pharmacopoeia. So the medical practitioners hesitate because they don't want their patients to not get that outcome which is desired out of their prescription. So opening 3,000 stores is not a solution. Let me tell you that, Shireen. You see, people have to build the confidence level that they will get affordable medicines at the best quality, at those stores where they visit. And then again, there is again an issue, Shireen, let me tell you. When we go to the store, we don't get all the medicines which are being promised to be doled out of that store. So, if a doctor prescribes and I don't get that medicine there, then I lose faith in that system.
I'm interrupting you again because there are several important points that you're making. You're saying that one, this rapid expansion, these big numbers that the government has put in place, saying 3,000 stores to be opened, expand to 5,000 stores by 2019. You're saying that perhaps the need of the hour is to ensure that things are working on the ground before you press ahead with even more accelerated expansion. And 2, you're saying that of the 636 medications and 132 consumables that have been added from 2014 to 2017, a majority of them are not actually available in the stores. So it's a supply issue and it's also an expansion issue. There are 2 separate issues that you're bringing up here.
It is absolutely, what I'm trying to say is that any scheme which the government promotes has to be managed professionally. There has to be accountability. There has to be transparency. And I have been saying this to the government right from the day one when it started in 2008. And then the previous government failed to take it off. The present Prime Minister is keen to, make sure that it's a big success. But I still don't find that intent. I don't find that intent which is required in terms of making Jan Aushadhi a big game changer in our country. And Jan Aushadhi is a game changer in our country if it is implemented in an efficient and an effective manner, which we want on behalf of patients.
So Mr.
We are demanding that it should happen, but it is not happening the way we are expecting it.
It continues to be mismanaged and it is not working effectively. What are the key changes that you would like the government to make to ensure that it does run effectively? Because you're saying it is needed, but what needs to change to make it effective?
The first thing I will tell the government of India to ensure that they hire professionals and experts on the subject. They need professionals and experts to work with the government to make it successful. That's number one. Number two, we must bring in incentivization in terms of people who are into this business.
Okay.
You know, like for example, if my NGO is running a Jan Aushadhi store, they cannot afford to be in a loss. It has to be made viable. It has to be self-sustainable. So which means that you have to bring a price tag in a manner which is viable and it is sustainable. But at the same time, I'm saying we must bring in competitiveness in the marketplace, because there are huge, issues concerning, pricing and accessibility. So we are more focusing on pricing rather than quality, availability and access, which is very, very important. So I would always look at that, how do I ensure that we procure in a real, professional manner, we procure in such a manner that there is never out of stock any kind of an alert at any store at any point of time.
Mr. Mishra, I want to end by picking up on the last point that you made. Last question, sir. You seem to suggest that everything, especially when it comes to quality, it is being sacrificed at the altar of pricing, that the single-minded focus on pricing that the government has adopted is actually hurting the consumer, is hurting quality.
Absolutely right. I agree with you that we cannot compromise on quality and safety of medicine. That is paramount. Pricing is important. I do agree that we need to make it competitive, but not at the cost of quality and safety of patients.
Well, Bijon Mishra, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us. On that note, we'll take a break. But when we return, we'll be joined by Gopal Dabade of the Drug Action Forum from Karnataka and Rajiv Dasgupta, Professor, Center of Social Medicine and Community Health at JNU on the other side. Welcome back. We're discussing the Jan Aushadhi scheme, the quality concerns of affordable medicine, and whether there needs to be some changes to ensure that this scheme is in fact effective on the ground. We have with us now Gopal Dabade of the Drug Action Forum of Karnataka and Rajiv Dasgupta, Professor, Center of Social Medicine and Community Health at JNU. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the show. Mr. Dabade, if I can start by asking you, several issues have been raised, whether it's quality related, it's a shortage of personnel, supply chain issues, accessibility, the single-minded focus only on price. Do you believe that to a large extent, the issues that we're seeing today are on account of the kind of expansion that the government has forced the Jan Aushadhi scheme through?
Thank you for inviting me. At the outset, this Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi scheme of the Prime Minister is a very tokenish program. I would like to say that it was initiated in the year 2008.
Why tokenish, sir?
I will come to that.
Yes, it was initiated in 2008, but it has,
Yeah, only the present government scaled it up, okay? And they say that we have now, the government acknowledges that there are around 3,000 Jan Aushadhis. Now, even when the scheme was in action in 2008 and 9, there is a study that has been done by Public Health Foundation of India. And the Public Health Foundation of India study notes that why this scheme will not really take off. And some of the things they identified was that poor supply chain management. This is one of the first things that was identified. And secondly, there was a lot of dependency on the state governments. So not much was within the power of the central government. And
center, right.
And thirdly, public awareness is totally lacking. I think this is one of the major things. There was no effort to educate the public, which was very much needed. And last but not the least, the fourth point is that some of the state governments have already launched this free medicine program. I don't know whether you know that. For example, states like Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Kerala. So in a way, this PMBJK contradicts what the state governments are doing. It was not in line with what the state governments were trying to do. So suppose there is a minister from Tamil Nadu, and if he wants to bring this PMBJK, but they already have this free medicine in the state public outlets. So given that situation, what will they do with this PMBJK? So there are a lot of contradictions set within that, apart from the fact that it's very poorly designed, and there is a lot of shortage of medicine, which many of you have said so far. And then the procurement departments are having problems. There is no adequate staffing. There is no quality. Yeah, quality control is to do with the drug controller of our country. And I think this holds good for the entire country and not just with these generic medicines. Because how do you know a brand drug is very good? By quality nature. Just because it is generic, people start blaming that it's of bad quality. The earlier panelist was saying that just because it is generic, we are not sure of the quality. But that could apply even to costly drugs. See, I can buy a car for 4 lakhs.
Sure.
I can buy a car for 50 lakhs. Now the quality of...
No, you're saying overall, the drug controller needs to look at whether compliance requirements are being met and look into the quality issue more closely. But let me go across to Rajiv Dasgupta. We just heard there from Gopal Dabade pointing out that this is a tokenish scheme, that there are design flaws, there are execution flaws. Mr. Dasgupta, what is your assessment? Because we're now talking about, at least the plan is to go to 5,000 stores by 2019. But, what about this disconnect, which is a real disconnect that Mr. Dabade just spoke about, which is the difference between what the centre wishes to do and what the state government wishes to do. The state government perhaps not incentivized to take this program forward.
No, that really is not the disconnect. The disconnect lies somewhere else, which is that 75% of outpatient access to care actually remains in the private sector. Jan Aushadhi till now is rooted very firmly in the public sector, in state institutions, largely in and around state institutions, as one of the panelists already mentioned. Also that overwhelmingly the poor pay a disproportionate amount on buying medicines for OPD care. And not only that, when a patient switches from one provider to another provider, the switch is almost inevitably in favor of the private, plus the fact that that catastrophic expenditure and out-of-pocket expenditure is certainly on the rise in the last decade. So the disconnect is somewhere else, whether you want a strong public system or you want this buying to continue. That really is the paradigmatic question as I see it.
Okay.
So Jan Aushadhi scheme, which no doubt the present government has a very serious intent,
just specifically on the Jan Aushadhi scheme,
is actually going to have relatively marginal impacts.
Okay. So why do you believe it will have relative marginal impact?
It will only cater to primarily its neighborhood. 3,000 stores, and it's still short of this target of 3,000 stores, is nothing when you consider that works out to about what, 4 stores per district with about 700 districts. So what real impact do we expect? Purely considering the numbers game, which is aside from the paradigmatic problem, as I pointed out. So there is and therefore what Gopal Dabade said, that state governments or some progressive state governments are actually getting into assured provisioning of free medicines is really the key, and which is nothing new. The public system had in the past provisions of free medicines. There's a subtle shift in between the last couple of decades when the government completely absolves itself of providing free medicines and devices, and then subsequently it's a sort of a balm, if I may, that affordable medicine comes into play. That really is the slightly longer term history of things.
Okay, Mr. Dabade, let me end then by asking you, sir, while this was, as we heard Mr. Bijon Mishra earlier on the program say that this was meant to be a game changer, it hasn't quite worked that way. The other game changer that the government is talking about, which is loosely called Modi Care, that also has an aspect of setting up these wellness centers, and perhaps the Aushadhi scheme is likely to be aligned in some ways to that proposed scheme as well. Do you believe that that is essential, that these two schemes will need to be in sync?
Yeah, you see, basically this scheme has not really taken off at all. You see, just look at the numbers that we just now heard the earlier panelist saying. We have something like 8 lakh wholesalers and 8 lakh retailers. Just imagine the huge number. And we just have 3,000 Jan Aushadhi outlets, which is really very, very short. And the National Sample Survey of 2014 says that 70% of the health expenses on medicines, and out-of-pocket expenses the highest in the world in India. So given all these things, even if you selectively just give free medicine in all public outlets, just take up the Tamil Nadu model and then, you know, recount it for the entire country and work out the budget for that and see how much it will bring down the catastrophic illness, because that's what is the the OPD expenses on medicines is very high, and that can substantially reduce the catastrophic. Yeah. And
all right,
let me also tell
on
you
the panel that there is a... Yes, go ahead.
The drug control of India is a very huge task, let me tell you. Very, very huge task. We have some hundreds and thousands of irrational fixed dose combinations in the market, which no standard textbooks ever prescribes. And however have these combinations come into the market? And some of them are the top selling brands in the market now. These are unscientific, these are irrational, these are economic waste. And we should have just tackled this huge problem. There is already the Govt committee report on this issue, and the government is not coming forth on that. These are something very, very substantial which can reduce the out-of-pocket expenses. Just take fixed dose combinations.
Yes, it was.
So the drug control, it is not just the issue of generics.
There was movement on that, but no, it is not just the issue of generics, but today's focus is on the Jan Aushadhi scheme. We'll have another discussion and debate on generics and versus branded and irrational combinations, but we've run out of time on this program. But the consensus on our panel that there is a big disconnect between the intent, the purpose behind the Jan Aushadhi scheme, as well as its execution on the ground. The truth does not keep pace with reality on the ground. On that note, it's time for us to wrap up this discussion. From all of us here, many thanks for watching. Don't go anywhere. What's Hot is up next.